My introductory presentation is titled Apologetics and Digimodernism. Where are we heading? Where are we heading? Well, the digital world has become one of the most significant places where people are wrestling with the biggest questions in life. A young man interested in Christianity can now encounter a conversation about the reliability of the New Testament while watching a podcast. A skeptic can ask questions about the resurrection while scrolling through YouTube. Someone exploring faith late at night can engage with thousands of people discussing God, suffering, morality, and meaning on Reddit. We are seeing the rise of a new generation of digital apologists who are bringing Christian arguments into spaces where many people would never expect to find them. Wes Huff's appearance on John Rogan's podcast is a particularly significant example. A conversation about ancient manuscripts, the historical Jesus, and the reliability of Scripture reached an audience far beyond the traditional boundaries of Christian apologetics. It was not a church event. It was not a theological lecture. It was not a long-form it was a long-form conversation in a digital environment where millions of people already spend their time. Similarly, John Lennox has demonstrated the power of entering public conversations about scientific faith, artificial intelligence, and human meaning. His ability to communicate profound theological and philosophical questions in accessible ways has allowed him to engage audiences who may never walk into a church or pick up a theological textbook. These examples reveal something important. People are not necessarily rejecting conversations about Christianity. They are often encountering them in different places. The challenge facing apologetics today is not simply whether Christianity has good answers. It is whether those answers are present where people are asking the questions. The church has always engaged with the communication spaces of its culture. The early Christians used the public square, letters, personal networks, and philosophical discussion. The reformers understood the importance of the printing press. Evangelists in the 20th century recognized the potential of radio and television. Every generation has had to consider where conversations are happening and how the gospel can be communicated within those spaces. Our generation's public square is digital. To understand why this matters, we need to understand the cultural environment in which we now live. Alan Kirby's concept of Digimodernism helps us to describe this transition. Kirby argues that we have moved beyond the cultural assumptions of modernism and postmodernism into a new digital condition shaped by the internet and interactive technologies. Modernism placed significance in institutions, experts, and established authorities. Postmodernism challenged those authorities and emphasized the instability of meaning and interpretation. Digimodernism, however, creates a culture of participation. People are no longer simply consumers of information. They are creators, commentators, and contributors. We've seen perhaps the death of the expert. In a Digimodernism world, everyone has the ability to publish, respond, remix, and influence. Authority is no longer automatically granted because of position or institution. Trust is often established through accessibility, authenticity, and participation. This creates both challenges and opportunities for Christian apologetics. The challenge is that traditional forms of authority do not always carry the same weight they once did. A person may not automatically listen to a professor, a pastor, or scholar simply because of their title. Instead, they listen to someone who can communicate clearly, answer questions thoughtfully, and engage respectfully within digital spaces they inhabit. But this is also an extraordinary opportunity. The barriers between scholars and the public have been lowered. A theologian, historian, pastor, or thoughtful Christian can now communicate directly with people across the world. Digital platforms have created new possibilities for apologetics that previous generations could not have imagined. However, we need to recognize that digital apologetics is not simply about creating more Christian content. It is about understanding where culture is moving and participating wisely within it. One of the most significant developments in the area is growing relationship between search engines, artificial intelligence, and online conversations. The way people find information is changing rapidly. Increasingly, people are not simply searching websites, they are asking AI systems questions and receiving synthesized answers. I think I read a report from Lifeway Research that said that a large percentage of people would now rather ask ChatGPT their theological and spiritual questions rather than pastors or people within authority. This means the conversations happening online today may shape the answers people receive tomorrow. The importance of platforms like Reddit illustrates this shift. Reddit has become one of the largest collections of human conversations on the internet. People ask questions, share experiences, debate ideas, and discuss everything from politics to philosophy to religion. The 60 million a year agreement between Google and Reddit demonstrates the increasing value of this kind of user-generated knowledge because these conversations are becoming increasingly important sources of information for search engines and AI systems. AI feeds on human engagement. This has profound implications for Christian apologetics. When someone asks an AI system, why do Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead? Or can the Bible be trusted? Or why does Christianity believe in God? What resources will shape the response? Will those answers be shaped primarily by thoughtful Christian engagement? Or will Christianity be represented only through critics, misunderstandings, and cultural assumptions? The future of apologetics will not only happen through books and debates, it will be through digital conversations, searchable resources, online communities, podcasts, videos, and AI interactions. This doesn't mean that traditional apologetics is disappearing, by the way. Books, lectures, and academic arguments remain essential, but they must now exist alongside a new missionary reality. The digital world is no less real because it happens through screens. Behind every username is a person. Behind every question is often a deeper search for meaning. Behind every debate is a human being trying to make sense of the world. And these conversations happen in the most vulnerable circumstances as well. The question is not whether Christians should engage in digital spaces. The question whether we will engage with them well is the biggest question that we are facing today. There is a danger if we fail to recognize this moment. If Christians are absent from these conversations, other voices will define Christianity for the next generation. People may encounter Christianity only through a caricature, misinformation, or hostile interpretations. The absence of Christian voices does not create neutrality, it creates a vacuum that others will fill. The future of apologetics, therefore, requires a new generation of digital missionaries. These digital missionaries need theological depth because good communication must be built upon truth. They need wisdom because digital spaces often reward conflict and outrage, whereas Christian engagement requires humility and patience. They need creativity because communicating timeless truths requires understanding contemporary culture. And above all, they need Christian character because the credibility of our message is inseparable from the way that we represent it. The goal of apologetics was not simply to win arguments. It's always been to point people towards Christ. The digital world gives us extraordinary opportunities to do this. Never before have Christians had such access to global conversations. Never before have thoughtful answers to questions about God, Scripture, and the person of Jesus been able to reach such diverse audiences or large crowds. The question facing us is whether we will recognize this as the new mission field, and I think that some have begun to think that way. 2,000 years ago, Paul entered Athens and engaged with philosophers at the Areopagus. Get my teeth in this morning. He understood the questions people were asking and entered the place where those conversations were happening. Today, the Areopagus looks different. It is found on podcasts, search engines, online communities, social media platforms, and artificial intelligence conversations. The questions remain the same. The challenge before the church is whether we will present where those questions are now being asked well. This is why we are hosting this conference, to equip you to be salt and light in the digital spaces where so many of today's conversations are now taking place. The digital world is not simply a collection of technologies or platforms. It is a place where people are asking profound questions about identity, meaning, truth, suffering, morality, and God. These are the very questions that have always been at the heart of Christian apologetics. Our calling is not to withdraw from these spaces, but rather to enter them with wisdom, confidence, and grace. Just as the early church engaged in the marketplaces and intellectual centers of its day, we are called to understand and engage the digital market places of our own generation. Today's conference is designed to help us think more carefully about what this means. Through 3 presentations, we will explore the opportunities and challenges of apologetics in digital spaces. We will consider how technology is reshaping the way that people search for truth, how Christians can communicate the gospel effectively in online environments, and how we can faithfully represent Christ in conversations that are increasingly happening through digital platforms. Our hope is that today will not simply provide information, but inspiration and practical encouragement, equipping us to become more thoughtful, courageous, and compassionate witnesses for Christ wherever these conversations take place.